So I bought an e-bike, a 2020 Commencal Meta Power SX 27.5. I self-shuttled to the top of Windrock Bike Park in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, just to see how well the idea of using an e-bike for self-shuttling would work. The first thing I noticed on the climb was that I was actually enjoying it. It helped get my legs warmed up without wearing them out. It was quieter than the diesel truck I usually ride up on during shuttle days. I felt like it became part of the experience rather than just something I wanted to get over with and be done with. The technical things I noticed specific to the e-bike on the way up were that the motor seems to have a power band, and it seems to produce more power at a certain RPM, just like any engine does. So when I was spinning, when I would change my cadence, that would kind of change the power output a little bit, because when I got to the speed that the motor liked, it would accelerate me at the same pedal pressure when I wasn't necessarily trying to accelerate, but just spin steady. So just one of the idiosyncrasies of where the technology is at. It was certainly not any inconvenience, but just something that I did notice and adapt to. I know that for 2021, Shimano has claimed to improve the feel of their motor and the way it interfaces with your feet and the pedals, etc. That may have been improved on, as well as they claim to have gotten it quieter, which is cool, but I certainly am happy with the level it's at with the bike that I have, and I wouldn't be motivated to spend any money improving on that. Once I pointed the bike downhill, it handled really well. It has a pretty lively feel despite the weight. It holds momentum really well once you get going, and that's something I had to get used to. And it's a good thing, but when you're not expecting it, it just causes you to adjust. So it's just something that I'm going to have to get used to. I think the only thing that was holding me back on this ride was not anything specific to the e-bike itself, but just I burned through my brake pads on this ride because I bought the bike used, and I guess they were on the back end of their life. The sound from the brakes totally changed towards the back end and started making this crazy sound, which I guess is, where we're hitting the metal backing of the pads. Then you've got a heavy 52-pound e-bike and you're running out of brakes. With all that momentum you're carrying, it kind of messes with my confidence levels. So that kind of held me back a little bit. Also, I've been riding nothing but 29ers, so I just needed to adjust my technique for that. Made a couple mistakes here, dropping in and setting up for some tech, where I didn't roll over things the way I wanted to and didn't piece things together to make it flow smoothly. So hopefully future laps will look a little bit better and less broken up. The main difference in feel of riding an e-bike versus riding a trail bike or my downhill bike are it doesn't get knocked offline as easily. I assume that's the extra weight. It keeps going, it holds momentum, it plows, it holds its line, and it's got that kind of extra stability to it. Cornering is great. It actually jumps really well. It does some of the things you might think the weight would hold it back, like jumping and cornering. It does those very well. This specific bike has a pretty low bottom bracket. It's spec'd with 27.5-inch wheels. I think Commencal spec'd it and designed the Geo so it wouldn't be a pig out on the trails, and that's the way it feels. It feels pretty good. I think the key with these e-bikes is look ahead, commit, know your line, set up your line correctly in the first place, Don't try to brake late into the rough, brake late into corners, make micro adjustments to fix a bad setup, because you've got this momentum that is going to see you through, but you don't want to send it in the wrong direction and then try to change that direction once you realize that it's not quite where you want it to be. So it rides really good. It just wants you to know what you want and send it in that direction. I had some issues getting the stack height and the handlebar height high enough on this bike to where I felt comfortable. Ended up getting a Spank Spike 50 mil rise handlebar and a stem with 5 millimeter rise. It's actually a 35 millimeter long stem, so it's shorter than the 40 millimeter stock stem. I actually like the way it handles with the 35 in this case. I exchanged the RockShox Lyric that came stock for a DVO Onyx e-bike specific fork, and I really like it a lot. I need a stiffer spring for the rear shock. It's kind of smashing into the travel a little bit, and I want a little more support, so I'm going to stiffen that up in the future. One thing I did just notice making this video is that it's got EXO Plus tires on it. I'll probably go double down in the future whenever those wear out. The other issue I ran into was that the stock dropper post was 170 millimeters long, and it would not insert all the way to the collar, and the seat tube was high enough to where I couldn't get the saddle low enough during descents. It was in my way for maneuvering, so I replaced it with a 150 millimeter dropper post to get that out of the way. So I had issues getting the front end high enough and the back end low enough that I had to fix. Well, that's it for this video. I hope it provided some insight on e-bikes and the Commencal Power SX. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching the video, and ride safe out there.